You know, when I was in the academy, I was sharing with my friends today, when I was at the Officers Training Academy, I was perhaps the weakest cadet in the academy. And I would have left. There was no way I was going to complete that hellish training of the Indian Army at the OTA. I could not have completed it had people not helped me, had friends not helped me. And today I'm taking this opportunity to thank this guy here. His name is Captain Arnab Chakrabarti. He's from the Armored Corps. He's sitting right there. There is Brigadier R.K. Singh. Hey, Chaku, raise your hand. R.K., you also raise your hand. Brigadier R.K. Singh is still serving. He's in the army. He's still serving, and all three of us are course mates. And I can tell you that there was Amardeep Singh Bali. Bali is still serving in the Indian Army. He's a colonel. There was A.P. Sinha, Colonel A.P. Sinha, and this is Arnab Chakrabarti. Had these people not helped me, there wasn't a day when I did not think about calling my father and saying, I can't do this. They helped me. It was not very pleasant help, let me tell you, because they're not the most sensitive of guys, but they're the reason why I'm standing in front of you, right? You need to have friends like this guy there. Arnab Chakrabarti, we call him Chaku. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we have discussed China and we've told you a little bit about the army. Now I'm going to tell that story because Ajit said, where is Ajit? Ajit said, आप कहानी जरूर सुनाना. तो आज मैं आपको कहानी सुनाऊंगा. And वो कहानी जो है ना, इसका कोई शायद लेना देना नहीं है fire and safety से. But this is a story that I love telling. Friends, बात है 18 नवंबर 1962 की. 18th of November 1962. The Chinese army was on a roll, and post after post after post of the Indian army was falling. Our soldiers attained Veer Gati. They did not surrender. They died where they fought. And what happened was, Daulat Beg Oldi. You've heard all these places now because the army is there now. And these come very frequently. It is the same area, East Ladakh. Daulat Beg Oldi. You know. And so many other posts. And the Chinese war machine rolled on and on and on and on. Till they reached a small hillside. That hillside was occupied by 122 men. Those 122 men, tired, hungry, not well equipped. The Chinese had automatic weapons. These guys had bolt action rifles. And one Jawan came forward and said, I do not know what brigade headquarters has said or what the higher headquarters has said. I am not aware of that. He said, but I know that my father fought in the Second World War. I belong to a family of soldiers. If I go home after withdrawing from my post, my son will not come running to hug me. My wife will turn her face away. I will be humiliated in my village. Honor dictates that my dead body go to the village, not me. So, they decided to fight. And 122 brave men of Charlie Company 13 Kuma went to war against 3,000 Chinese soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to tell you is the story of the Battle of Rezang. 16,000 feet above sea level, temperature minus 25 degrees. Half of the company suffering from frostbite. Cold. They do not have, imagine they do not have any specialized winter equipment. And they are there, waiting. 3:30, the OP, you know, the person at the post, he tells the company commander, sir, the Chinese are advancing. The company commander goes and he tells everybody, quiet, no firing. You can't see them, why fire? After some time he comes and says, sir, they are 500 yards away, approximately. And the company commander says, no firing. And then he says, sir, 300 yards, no firing. 200 yards, no firing. 100 yards, no firing. 50 yards, hold your fire. And then at 30 yards, the young company commander said, fire. Charlie Company 13 Kuma opened up with everything that they had. The entire gully coming up to the position was filled with Chinese dead bodies. The Chinese ran away. After some time, they came back. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. It was in the 7th wave that approximately only 25 soldiers were left. The Chinese just came in waves. They just kept on coming. And these guys just kept on fighting, just kept on fighting. They did not stop. And there was a time when they ran out of ammunition. So they did what any other infantry soldier would do. They put bayonets on their rifles. They got out of their trenches and they attacked the Chinese soldiers. But the Chinese soldiers were wearing very thick parka coats, very thick parka coats. Our bayonets could not penetrate the coats. Our bayonets broke. So what did these guys do? They used their rifles as clubs. And then they fought the Chinese. Their rifles broke. What did they do? They picked up rocks and they fought with rocks against the Chinese, and then they were out of rocks. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen? 1962. The world was pretty modern at that time. In 1962, you have 2 armies facing off against each other. One army with automatic weapons and the other one barehanded. I have a friend in Mumbai who writes lyrics for films. His name is Manoj Muntashir. And Manoj bhai wrote a poem which I will, and this poem always reminds me of Rezangla. जूते फटे पहनकर आकाश पर चढ़े थे, जूते फटे पहनकर आकाश पर चढ़े थे, सपने हमारे हरदम औकात से बड़े थे, सर काटने से पहले दुश्मन ने सर झुकाया, सर काटने से पहले दुश्मन ने सर झुकाया, देखा उसने जब हम निहत्ते मैदान में खड़े थे. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the soul and the spirit of Rezangla, where unarmed men fought against automatic weapons. You will not find this in the annals of modern warfare. The Battle of Rezangla. And the Battle of Rezangla raged and raged and raged. There's a story, and I spoke to the survivors. I know the story firsthand. And of course, it's from my regiment. So I jolly well know the story. And so what happened was that these 2 young soldiers, one 18 years and one 19 years, they were with the company commander, and suddenly they saw that the company commander had been shot. It was a long medium machine gun burst. It started from the neck and the stomach was ripped open. And the company commander was lying on the ground in a pool of his own blood in this freezing temperature. They didn't know what to do. They were still young. So they ran to their Havaldar. The Havaldar had a bullet lodged in his neck and he could not speak properly. There was blood gushing out. And they told him, they asked him, they asked him, ki, sir, karna kya hai? What should we do? We don't think that the company commander will survive. We think that he's dead, but we don't know. The dying statement of the Havaldar was, company commander sahab ki लाश दुश्मन के हाथ में नहीं पड़नी चाहिए. So these 2 young soldiers, they buried the company commander under snow. And they lay on top of his body, playing dead. The Chinese found out these 5, there were 2 and there were other 3, these 5 were taken prisoner of war. That night, out of 122, 114 soldiers laid down their life for Mother India. The Battle of Rezangla. And this is where the story starts actually. It does not end here. They were presented in the defense ministry where there were a few generals and a few bureaucrats. And they said, what happened in Rezangla? He said, we fought in Rezangla. 122 fought against 3,000 Chinese, and they said, you will be court-martialed, you're telling a lie. How is it possible? How is it even possible that 122 can fight against 3,000? You are going to be court-martialed. But anyway, they said, let's send a fact-finding mission. So in the month of March or April, a fact-finding mission was sent. There was a brigadier who was put in charge, and this brigadier's name was Brigadier T.N. Raina from the Kuma regiment, who later on became army chief. Brigadier Tapeshwar Narayan Raina. When he went there, he found exactly what these people had been saying all along. The company commander was still with a pistol in his hand, frozen solid, and all 114 soldiers frozen solid lying there. There were 1,300 dead Chinese soldiers also there. In one night, these 122 had killed 1,300 Chinese soldiers. But, how do you cremate the dead? It was only after Kargil that, the last remains of the soldiers had been, they were sent back. Only after Kargil. But before that, if he was a Muslim, he would be buried. If he was a Hindu or a Sikh, Muslim or Christian, buried, Hindu or Sikh, cremated, or whatever the religious rites were, it was done there on the battlefield. So they said, we have to cremate these 114 here. But Ladakh is a cold desert. Ladakh is a cold desert, and there was nothing available there. I mean, there was no wood there. Where would you where would you find wood actually to cremate so many people? Where would you find the wood? So somebody told them there is a school close by, a few kilometers away, there is a school, and that school is going to be demolished because the roof has caved in or something like that, and the students are no longer using that school. वो इस्तेमाल नहीं करा जा रहा स्कूल. तो फौजी वहाँ पे गए, वहाँ के डेस्क, वहाँ के दरवाजे, वहाँ की कुर्सियाँ निकाली, और 114 जो हमारे भाई थे, वीर गति को प्राप्त हुए थे, उस जगह उनको क्रिमेट करा गया, उनका अंतिम संस्कार करा गया. और जहाँ पे उनका अंतिम संस्कार किया गया है, वहाँ पे आज की तारीख में there is a war memorial. That war memorial is testament to the fighting spirit of the Indian Army. In 1971, the Pakistani army surrendered, they quit. We lost the 1962 war. And no Indian will say that we won the 1962 war, but we did not surrender. We died fighting where we stood. And that is the sense of honor of the Indian Army. And they say that, this is an urban legend. I don't know if it happened or not. We can't be sure it happened because there are stories and stories and stories. But this one it tells you the spirit of Rezangla, ladies and gentlemen. And the spirit of Rezangla was simple, that the Chinese soldiers asked the Indians, because all of them were from 70-80% of them were from Rewari in Haryana. और चाइनीज ने इंडियन सोल्जर्स से पूछा कि तुमने क्या कभी इतने ऊंचे पहाड़ देखे हैं? और 13 कुमाऊं की चार्ली कंपनी ने जवाब दिया, क्या तुमने कभी इतना बुलंद हौसला देखा है? Rezangla is the story of my regiment, and it gives me a great deal of pride when I talk about such heroes, because this is a legacy that we try and carry forward in the regiment and, of course, in the Indian Army. So a lot of things happened after Rezangla, but one thing happened was within 24 hours, the Chinese signed a ceasefire. They just could not manage the kind of casualties that they had taken. I have often tried to think. I have often looked at the map. Was Rezangla strategically important? I don't know. I don't know all these things. Was it strategically important? I don't know. मुझे नहीं पता. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But कहीं ना कहीं ये मामला Rezangla का, क्योंकि इतने इंडियन पोस्ट गिर चुके थे, ये जो Rezangla की लड़ाई थी, बाकी इज्जत के लिए तो लोग लड़ते ही हैं, ये मामला जिद का हो गया था. I think that night 122 Indian soldiers decided that this is where the Chinese war machine stops and it will not go beyond Rezangla. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, but I thought I must tell you the story because wherever I go, wherever I'm asked to, I tell the story as a beacon of hope to the younger generation. You know, these are your heroes. Not the heroes that you think are your heroes. The company commander was Major Shaitan Singh, Paramveer Chakra. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. सवाल जवाब नहीं, कोई पूछना चाहे तो पूछ सकता है, बिल्कुल पूछिए. 1967 Nathula, sir.
Yes, sir.
That was General Sagat Singh, sir.
That's also a heroic story.
Hello.
Sir, उसके लिए कभी और बताएंगे, लेकिन I'll tell you what, I think General Sagat Singh comes in the dreams of the Chinese. Because General Sagat Singh thrashed the Chinese so badly in Nathula that for decades there was peace between India and China. And I believe the story, I don't know about this exactly, but I believe that Chinese soldiers were strolling in some market piche apne area mein. They were roaming around in the evening and he told the artillery to open up and then there was fire in the sky. And yeah, so right now also you need General Sagat Singh along the line of actual control, sir. You need that kind of treatment to the Chinese. ये जो हम लोग talks करते हैं ना Chinese के साथ, sir. Talks में क्या होगा, sir? One side is speaking Mandarin, other side is speaking Punjabi. देखो वैसे इनके talks में कुछ नहीं होनी. They should just go and इनके 100-200 गिरा दो, सब ठीक हो जाएंगे, तो there'll be peace.